Welcome back, geometry students. In this part of the lesson, we're going to go through the lesson practice for our side congruence lesson. All right, so the first one, we need to identify the corresponding angles and sides in these two triangles. And we know that there's going to be 6 total corresponding parts. Corresponding parts of corresponding triangles are congruent. So the corresponding parts here are going to be angles Q and U that have this single arc mark, angles S and P, double arc mark, angles T and R. Okay, so 3 parts are taken up by the angles. Side TS is congruent to side PR with a single side tick mark. Side RQ is congruent to side TU with a double. And then side PQ is congruent to side SU with a triple. Here it is all written out. Notice that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 congruent parts. Write a congruence statement for the 2 triangles below. Here we're going to have to be careful to get the names of the triangles correct. So I can say triangle A, B, C. Now notice I started with A, which is between the single and double tick mark. Down here, D is between the single and double tick mark. Okay, so I need to start this one with D. And then I'm going to go along my single tick mark, D, E, F. So I'd say triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF, and it would look like this. Triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. This last little bit is how you would state that. All right, identify the congruent sides and angles in the 2 triangles below and write 6 congruence statements. Okay, this is going to be just like letter A. I would say angle T is congruent to angle K. Angle S is congruent to angle J. Angle L is congruent to angle U, and I'm doing that by the number of tick marks, number of arc marks for each of those angles. Then I would say LJ is congruent to US. LK is congruent to UT, and JK is congruent to ST. Let's see if those are the 6. There they are. Maybe they named the segments in reverse order from what I said, but it is correct. All right, and then lastly, this is just like the flipped one that we did before. What I'm going to do, I'm going to try to get one of these triangles by itself here so that we can see this in action. Let's see if I can get JKL. So if I just shrink this down and just try to grab triangle JKL, all right, that's decent. Let's see here. And then I'm going to take this same triangle. I don't know that this is going to work actually because I can't. Well, what I can do is I'm just going to flip this. We'll flip it horizontally. Format options, we're going to rotate it and flip that way. I'm going to drag it around, and what we're going to do is pretend like we're going to drag these on top of each other so that they're right next to each other. The problem is if I do that, I'm never going to be able to get them both to display because they're images like that. But I want you to imagine that I've lined them up so that that 3 tick mark side there is on top of this side, and I have a shape that's called a kite. Okay. Now imagine you're making a kite as an example with 2 congruent triangles that make a kite shape. If I were to join these together, they would make a kite shape. You know that one obtuse angle in the kite shape is 110 degrees. So let's go ahead and label that 110 degree obtuse angle. We'll make that this one right here. What is the measure of the other obtuse angle? Well, if these were brought together to make a kite shape, these would have to have the same angle because they're congruent triangles, and that's going to be one of the congruent parts of the congruent triangle. Now notice that this kite shape is made up of 2 triangles that are right next to each other, and the triangles, this triangle over here and this triangle over here, have side congruence. Okay, just like these ones have side congruence. Now if this angle here and this angle here have to add up to 70, this angle here and this angle here also have to add up to 70 because they're congruent. That means I'm going to have 140 degrees left over for those two angles total. I don't know how much these get of that 140 and how much these get of that 140. But see if we did this right. Yes, the other side has to be 110 degrees because these two angles have to be congruent. And then, yes, when I add together these angles here and these angles up here, there has to be 140 degrees left over because in each triangle there's 70 degrees left over, but I'm adding two of those congruent triangles together. All right, you are now ready to work problems number 1 through 30.